Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of my read-through of Umineko no Nakukoro ni, episode 1. This time the dog is out and about, so you might hear some cries from myself or my wife. I mean, it's Mel. Yeah, telling the dog what not to do. Anyway, let's hop in. The boat gave a big shudder, seeing we docked at the harbor. The boat driver came out and jumped to the pier with the mooring rope. A large man in a tuxedo was waiting there for us with a warm, smiling face. I didn't know him, but judging by his clothes, I guess he was a servant of the Ushimiya head house.
Welcome, my lady. You were quite late, and I began to worry.
Thanks for caring. The boat had Battler scared shitless, so we had to slow down for him. Seriously, what a pain in the ass. Shut up! I'm gonna remember this when the shoe's on the other foot. At this rate, word will spread around the entire family, and I'll be the big conversation piece during dinner. Even without this, everyone would be talking about me because of that 6-year gap, but now I provide them with an even juicier topic. Damn it. Why does the Ushimiya main family have to live on this isolated island? In the meantime, the boat had finished up its mooring. A small plank was lowering that we could get down. One by one, our parents came off the boat.
You must all be quite tired from your long trip. Madam, please allow me to assist you.
Thanks. It's been a while, Goda-san. How are you?
Thanks for your concern. It is always my pleasure to serve.
Battler, isn't this your first time meeting Goda? If I'm not mistaken, you weren't working here 6 years ago, right?
Indeed. So please allow me to greet him for the first time. It is an honor to meet you at last, Battler-sama.
I'm pretty secure about my height, but you're huge. This is definitely our first meeting. If I ever met a big guy like you, I'd never forget it. It's a pleasure. I'm Battler.
Your return has been keenly anticipated, sir. I have been working for the Ushimiya head house since the year before last. My name is Goda, your servant. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. If there is ever any need, you should feel free to rely upon me.
Goda, it's been some time.
It has been too long, George. Please allow me to assist you. As usual, you're a reception pro. If you ever need a job, just give me a holler. I'd hire you just like that. You do me too much honor. Please allow me to assist you, Hideyoshi-sama.
Goda then lent a hand to everyone as they disembarked, greeting them as they passed. His speech and mannerisms had the refined polish of a professional. He was very graceful in contrast with his initially rough-looking appearance. His large size made him seem a bit scary at first, but he was much more polite than my first impression of him had led me to believe. He claimed to have served on the island for 2 years, but he doubtless worked at a similar job somewhere before. After everyone disembarked, the mooring rope was untied and the boat started to steer away from the harbor. It was probably returning to its own port in Nijima. The captain waved his hand in farewell. Maria conscientiously waved back. I just realized why something's been feeling a bit out of place. I can't hear the cries of the seagulls.
Seagulls? The birds?
I remember whenever we came to this island, the seagulls always welcomed us with their lively nya-nya cries. Because of that, whenever I hear the cries of the seagulls in any other place, I get the feeling that I've come to a family conference. Except for the small part of the island where those of the Ushimiya head house live, Rokenjima had been left uncultivated, apparently transforming into a paradise for wild birds. Seemingly, some cliff face or other had become home to a huge seagull colony, so the island was always full of them. Since the seagulls didn't come to greet us, it was a bit lonely. What's wrong, Battler? Oh, Auntie Rosa. It's nothing, really. I was just saying I can't hear the seagulls, so it's a bit lonely. Oh, you're right. They're always so lively, but I can't see hide nor hair of one of them today. Ooh? Why no seagulls? Maybe it's because the seagulls are having a gathering somewhere too. Maria, did you want to see them? Ooh, wanted to. What happened for all of them to disappear? Maybe Jessica made all of them into shish kebabs and ate them. Ooh?
The hell? Don't say stuff like that. You'll get Maria all confused.
Ooh. Jessica Onei-chan made them into shish kebabs. She made them into shish kebabs. Ooh.
I didn't. I did not. Why the hell would I do something like that?
That's right. That's right. Jessica made them into shish kebabs. Skin and meatballs, liver and onions. Swimming meatballs, liver and onions. Ooh. Giggle, giggle. As I made fun of Jessica, Maria tagged along, looking like she was having fun. Yeah, she really knows how to join in with things. Alright then, starting today, I'll make you my #1 apprentice. As I smiled at her, she beamed back overjoyed. I guess, happy for this little bit of solidarity. That's not it, Maria. I heard wild birds are attuned to changes in the weather and atmospheric pressure. It looks like the weather will get worse around tonight. It looks like the weather, it's possible they hurried back to their nests. Ooh, not kebabs? Jessica Onei-chan didn't make them into kebabs?
I didn't. I told you I wouldn't do stuff like that. Alright, Battler, you admit it right now that you lied.
Battler? Maria's a naive girl, so she takes even jokes seriously. You should choose your jokes more carefully. George gently scolded me. Even though I outstripped Aniki in height, he still commanded respect as my elder. No choice but to obediently apologize. Hey, that's my bad. Maria, that just now was a joke. It's just today the seagulls are quiet in their nests. Battler lie? George Onii-chan true? I was having fun, but you were actually just tricking me. The pure eyes seemed to accuse me. Maybe I went overboard after all. Yeah, that's right. What George Aniki said is true. The weather's bad, so they probably went home for the day. It doesn't mean they're gone, does it? Right, Auntie? That's right. Tomorrow, when the weather gets better, I'm sure they'll be back and let you hear their meow-meow cries. Ooh. I'll wait for the weather to get better so they come back. Wait for tomorrow. Wait for the weather to get better. Ooh. Maria's mood lightened and she started looking forward to tomorrow, when the seagull would come back and fill the skies. Still, George Aniki is really amazing at taking care of kids. I think I remember Aniki taking good care of me as well when I was a brat 6 years ago. Aniki might have quite a talent for this kind of thing. George, you're very amazing at taking care of kids. I think you could work in childcare.
Yeah, it's like you were born for it. To me, that seems more of a you thing than doing business as some company president.
Oh no. Childcare is a very respectable job of its own. It's not something you can do merely by liking children. You're truly modest, George. But, Battler, you're quite good with children as well, you know. Earlier, even if it was just for a time, Mario seemed to be having a lot of fun. Keep on playing with her like you did just now. Just choose your jokes a little more carefully, alright? Auntie Rosa winked at me and giggled. A real mother, I thought to myself, who's happy that Maria looks like she's having fun.
Come on, Rosa. You two brats, what the hell are you doing? Get a move on.
Alright, we're coming. The old bastard was beckoning us to hurry. But we'd better get a move on. It's not like it'd be too late to have the same discussion after we got our luggage to our rooms.
Well then, I shall lead you all towards the guest house, where you will be staying. Please, this way.
Goda called to everyone and started leading us. Kumasawa brought up the rear. A serpentine twisting path led through a dim forest. It ran uphill. I guess the path was made twisting so the slope wouldn't be felt too much. Personally, I'd have been happier if they had been man enough to make some stairs in a straight line. No doubt they made the path twisting on purpose to put an air of distance and importance. Before long, we saw a garden-style stone step. Now I remember how it goes from here. Go up these and then... And the top of the stone steps, a beautiful guest house came into view. Its facade was lovely, of course, but even more than that, we couldn't help but have our hearts stolen away by the splendor of that beautiful rose garden that was spread before it.
Oh, as beautiful as ever this year. A real delight for the eyes.
As they reached the top of the stone steps, the people welcomed in by the rose garden voiced their appreciation one after another. Aren't the flowers less lively this year? It must be because summer wasn't warm enough.
I also believe that is so. When one compares this with last year's blooming, it is a pity that this year's is somewhat inferior.
Even so, it was a delightful rose garden. I remember that a huge amount of roses used to greet me every year, even over 6 years ago. This rose garden was the first thing that greeted the people who came to Rokujima. Even our parents, who came every year, couldn't help but let their wonder slip out. Moreover, it even looked like a powered-up version of the garden from 6 years ago that was in my memories. This place is always amazing. It would be wonderful to have a rose garden like this in my home.
Give it up. What do you think? Who do you think would take care of it? Roses are a real pain with bugs and diseases to worry about.
They are. In fact, I heard Kyrie-ne-san attends to her rose every day, and makes sure it doesn't get nibbled at without her knowing.
What? I haven't heard anything like that. What's this?
Oh, I do. Though, with him, it's the rose that goes off after the insects, so it's really more like some nasty carnivorous plant.
So that's what you mean. Come on, Rosa, can't you just give it a rest for today? I put that sort of thing completely behind me.
I wonder. After all, you're a womanizer on an almost genetic level. No need to worry, Rosa. If a rose gives me too much trouble, I just chop it off at the root. Oh, such frightening talk.
Guys who are popular with ladies are always forced to live with the danger at their side. I sure hope I can turn out a bit prettier in my next life. Hideyoshi Nissan, I keep telling you it's not like that. And Kyrie, stop it. You're really freaking me out. You're making my rose wither.
Hey Maria, look over here. The roses are especially magnificent. Roses magnificent? Ooh. Smells pretty sweet. Look, this matches my elegance perfectly.
Cut it out. Maria's gonna imitate you and get hurt by the thorns.
She yelled at me as I leaned over with an exaggerated gesture to smell the rose's scent. I thought she was overreacting, but when I turned around, I saw Maria imitating my every movement, thereby putting a broad smile on George Aniki's face. Hey now, Maria, be careful. Rose of thorns can hurt. Ooh. George Oni-chan, this rose is strange. Ooh.
Strange? What's wrong?
Mari pointed to a single rose. I immediately understood why she found it odd. In the midst of all the magnificent roses, just one single rose was withering. There wasn't a particular reason. Some roses flourish and others wither. That's all there was to it, but Maria seemed very concerned about there being only one unhealthy rose in a group of healthy ones. She must be feeling somehow like it's been left out. So you feel sad for this rose because it's the only one that isn't healthy? Ooh. The others are all healthy, but this one's sad. Well, they all bloom and wither on their own. I'll bet the only reason that one's withered now is because it bloomed earlier than any of the other roses. Yeah, that's right. It's probably just bloomed all over the place, fulfilled its duty, and went to rest. You shouldn't get so worked up about it. Oh. See, Maria's pure sensitive nature was making her feel some emotional pain for the rose that withered alone. Even though she understood the logic of it, it still felt lonely to her. Okay, Maria. Why don't you look at this after this rose until we leave then? Ooh. George Aniki straightened up and felt around in his pocket. He then took out the wrapping from the candy that he'd eaten on the plane. He twisted it into a thin string and gently tied it to the rose as a sort of marker. Hey, that's pretty cute. Let's mark it with this. Later on, you can come and give it some water. I'm sure Mr. Rose will be happy. Ooh, come give it water. I think you should give Mr. Rose here a name. I'm sure that'll make it happy, and you'll get to know it a little better. Name? Name? Ooh. Though she still wore her usual sullen face, Maria crossed her arms and began to consider this intently. At the very least, she appeared to have been completely pulled out of her slump. Nice going, Aniki.
George Nissan has always been really understanding. Can't help but respect him.
Sorry, we just paused while we put Millie away and she was barking. Yeah, I guess that's just his gift. We gotta learn some lessons from him.
Was such garden as fancy as this when you were a kid?
It was only after I left the house it became this grand, though I was more fond of the previous rustic one. Nissan fiddled with it too much with his slightly questionable taste. It was much better the way it was before.
Ava, you gotta think positive. No matter how it might have looked, its beauty now is something to be admired. You'll be able to relax a lot better if you look at it that way.
I didn't mean it like that. I was just saying I would have liked you to have seen the old, more wonderful garden as well.
Now then, everyone, if you please. I shall be guiding you to the rooms now.
Goda called out to everyone to ask if we were ready. But our hearts had been completely stolen away by the rose garden after a year of absence, and we didn't want to lend him an ear. Since we weren't a travel group, it wasn't like we had a strict schedule to follow. Besides, for our parents, this was their fond old birth home which they had returned to, so they felt no obligation to be pressured by anyone. Understanding the situation, Goda continued to wait with a wide smile for our parents to lose interest in the roses and tell him to guide us to the rooms.
Ma, hey, if it isn't Karen and Coon, it's been so long. How you doing?
Uncle Hideyoshi suddenly shouted. In the direction he was waving was a slender boy. Meeting him right after a huge man like Goda probably emphasized his small stature. The boy was in the middle of transporting piled up gardening tools and the like in a wheelbarrow. When he realized he was being called to stop, he set down the wheelbarrow, took his hat off, and bowed his head. Good afternoon. I figured he was probably younger than me. I realized by the general atmosphere surrounding him he was a servant too. Though he did greet Uncle Hideyoshi back, he himself seemed like he might be unsociable. It was a greeting I'd like to feel him. When Goda noticed that our interest had shifted towards him, he went by the boy's side and introduced him to us.
Badler, I shall introduce you. Here's one of the servants who serves the Ushimiya head house. Canon, greet our guest.
I'm pleased to meet you. I'm the servant Canon. Yeah, my first impression wasn't wrong. He gave the feeling he was unsociable, or maybe a bit of a poor speaker. In contrast with Goda, who was extraordinarily polished as a servant, it was impossible not to feel the immaturity that you'd expect from someone his age. When Goda urged him in a whisper to give a bit more of an introduction, the boy named Canon only cast his eyes down.
Canon, could you perhaps give them a little more as a greeting?
I can't. Because we are furniture. It seemed that he wasn't refusing to greet us out of spite, but rather he gave the impression he didn't know what else to add to the greeting, so he could do nothing other than stay silent.
Canon's a man of few words. He might not be sociable, but deep down he's a really good person. Don't get him wrong. You've been working here for 3 years, right? Yeah, you've been here a year longer than Godo, right, Canon?
Even though it's not like he made a super bad impression, Jessica hurriedly backed him up. I see. Apparently him being unsociable works against him all the time. Cool. Nice to meet you. I'm Battler. I'm 18. How old are you? A silence, as if evaluating whether it was a question that must be answered or not. But here again, Jessica plowed ahead.
If I remember right, he's 2 years younger than us, so 16, right?
That's correct. Looked like, if given a choice, he would have preferred not to tell the age. Him not wanting to tell his age was probably because he thought he would be looked down upon for it. I remember when I was around his age, I hated being asked how old I was by adults. I see. 16, huh? That's gotta be a delicate time. In that case, I asked something I shouldn't have. I'm glad you're about our age. Just be cool and call me Battler. And I'll call you Canon. Thank you very much. But just the sentiment is enough. Battler-sama. Jessica looked flustered for some reason. She seemed to think my impression of Canon was worsening because of his rejection. I doubt a girl like Jessica understands his fretful male heart. As his elder, even if just by 2 years, who would lead him into adolescence, I took it upon myself to understand that.
Canon, could you perhaps be a little more courteous? A smiling face is the duty of a servant.
I apologize. I shall make an effort. Oh, Goda. Canon is trying his best, isn't he? It seemed as though he was often warned about his discourtesy, and apparently he hadn't improved a bit. Goda kept his businesslike smile, but a sigh of resignation escaped. Well then, I have work to do. If you'll excuse me. It looked like Canon himself was uncomfortable with remaining silent here any longer. After another perfunctory bow, he turned on his heels and started pushing his wheelbarrow again. Just then, suddenly the wheelbarrow wobbled and fell, scattering the load. I guess the wheelbarrow, with its single wheel, caught onto a pebble and lost its balance.
What have you done? Now, quickly, clean it up!
Goda urged him along in a low voice, as if to remind him that it's a servant's shame to present a clumsy appearance in front of guests. Showing he understood quite well without being told, Canon wordlessly reloaded the wheelbarrow with the fallen objects. He seemed to be fine with the light-looking gardening tools, shovels, and such, but it seemed like he was having trouble getting his arms around and lifting some of the sacks of fertilizer.
Are you alright?
You're so careless. Here.
My lady, you will get dirty on your garments. Please, leave it to him.
With an elegant gesture, Goda took the shovel that Jessica had picked up. At his back was the figure of Canon having the trouble with the sacks of fertilizer. Ooh, you'll dirty your garments? Don't worry, I'm the ones I'm wearing aren't that elegant. Besides, I hate guys who make the waitress pick up the forks that they dropped at the restaurant. I lifted up the other bags that had fallen. Of course, they weren't light, but for me it was a piece of cake. Canon turned his surprised eyes towards me. It was the face of one who had never expected to receive help from a guest. Battler-sama. That is not necessary. I'll take care of it, so... Don't worry about it. I might not look it, but I got it where it counts. Canon looked like he hadn't yet gone through his growth spurt, and was stuck with a sort of weak body. I guess this kind of weight is a bit much for him. It's quite heavy, isn't it? It's natural that it would be difficult for you. Canon, don't worry about it. Alright, it's my time to shine. This makes up for the boat part from before, right? Huh!
As if your antics earlier could be written off that easily. I'll tell you about it later, Ken. Beller's a laugh and a half.
Gonna fall, gonna fall! Ooh, ooh, ooh. Banter made the job seem quick, and before I knew it, all the stuff had been piled back in the wheelbarrow. For letting you see such unsightliness, I beg your forgiveness.
Very well, enough now. Please go.
Letting such a disgraceful thing be seen by the guests who were supposed to be made welcome must have been hideously embarrassing as a servant. Pressed by Goda to hurry up and exit, Kenan left. You're too harsh on him, Goda. Wouldn't it have been easier if you helped him instead of being a bully?
You are quite correct. I deeply, deeply implore your forgiveness.
Without even a twitch in his smile, Goda-san apologized elegantly.
Canon-kun has a ton of things he's good at, too. Just being young works against him from time to time. It's a crying shame. It's a prickly age. You be nice to him. Keeping a tight lip is just what you want as a servant. Right, Kumasawa?
Ho 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 ho, Rudolph, you are truly harsh. There's no servant as silent as I, of course. Everyone smiled wryly at the shameless lie. Even she herself didn't believe it, not in her wildest dreams. She said it to loosen us all up. That's the kind of character Kumasawa Bachan used to be. The mood that stiffened a little was cleared up in a twinkling, thanks to Kumasawa's cheerful smile. I'd like to put down the luggage soon. Goda, how are we to split up for our rooms?
It shall be the same as last year. I shall guide you. Please, this way.
We headed towards the trim and elegant guest house. This was going to be our temporary quarters for the night. Kenan watched over a hedge as the guests all entered the guest house. Then he let his eyes fall on those heavy sacks of fertilizer piled up in the wheelbarrow. In his mind, he kept going over his previous mistake. Badler, big and strong, had picked up the sacks in front of him, the sacks he couldn't lift, as if they were feathers. It was extremely difficult for an outside observer to guess what emotions that favor had stirred up in Kenan. But, as far as you could tell by watching him hang his head from behind, there was something that he couldn't let go of. Muttered words escaped his lips. But the words he murmured were so soft they didn't even reach his own ears. Even I. Kenan hung his head, slightly biting his lower lip. I remember the rose garden, but I don't really remember the guest house at all. Was it built recently? Torarian was written on a gatepost-like thing, but since everyone called it the guest house, I followed their lead. The brand new Western-style guest house that stood overlooking the rose garden had a magnificent design carefully done in harmony with the garden. Correct! It was built just the year before last. Since then, we've been having them let us sleep over here.
Yeah, because people seem to like this place more than that junky old mansion we've had forever. Wish my room was over here.
Ooh, I want one too! I want one too! I guess you could call my house upper class as well, but I was reminded again of how completely ordinary it was compared to the head house. It showed a shocking display of wealth that would build this kind of awesome guest house for guests who come over once a year.
Eva, Hideyoshi, please do make use of this room. Rudolph, Kyrie, please, this one over here.
Oh, I do appreciate how pretty and elegant this place is. Western style truly is wonderful.
I can handle the Western style for a few days. Any longer than that, and you need the good old Japanese style. Japanese people just relax best on tatami mats.
They've been fighting over making our new house Japanese or Western. Mother still holds a grudge about father having started the construction as a Japanese style, and they bicker about it all the time.
Your parents get along so well. I'm jealous as hell. Mine are frosty. And yet they're right with each other when it comes to my grades.
All the rooms seemed to be two-person. I was grateful because I wasn't gonna be forced to share the same room with the old bastard for some bullshit reason like being family. Besides, I figured those two wouldn't be able to enjoy themselves with someone like me around. What's with that creepy smile? You're thinking about something dirty, aren't you? Something dirty? Of course not. Enjoy your stay. Ow! That hurts, you old bastard. Once again, Dad pulled my ear from behind.
Cut the crap. I'm getting a stomach ache and I'm not in the mood for it. You're the guest of honor for this time round. You play as nice as possible with Dad and Anarchy and the rest. At the very least, pay attention to what you say in front of Dad, got it? Cause the wisecracks go over like a lead balloon with him. Jessica, what's the mood of our family head been like lately? Same as last year, I guess. Considering they keep saying he's got 3 months left to live, he's as lively, grumpy, and irritable as ever.
Meaning he's in his usual bad mood again this year. And the only one who's able to take care of him is Genji. It seems the master will only open his heart to Genji. Lately us small people cannot even get an audience.
He shut himself up in his study again. Probably doing nothing with that weird black magic of his. What he does for a hobby is his own damn business, but when he starts stinking up the place, it really gets on my nerves. He can just stay in that study and never come out for all I care.
You shouldn't talk like that about the elderly. We're all indebted to him since he rebuilt the Ushimiya family. A little gratitude wouldn't hurt.
Well, I'm sorry.
After being rebuked by George Aniki, Jessica had no choice but to take back her thoughtless remark. The Ushimiya family was wealthy beyond belief, but that of course meant that all of its members were eccentric people, completely at odds with the rest of society. The head of the family, standing at its peak, in other words, our grandfather, seemed to be a particularly eccentric and terrifying person, even for our family. Dad said he was getting a stomachache earlier, but I guess that was what all the adults who came here today were actually feeling. No doubt they were jealous of us grandchildren, just playing and laughing without a care. From the stories Dad told me, the head of the family was a violent man who rained blows on his sons with his own fists and even beat his daughters mercilessly with a wooden sword. If he was such a staunch traditionalist with his kids, why wasn't he the same with their names? Because of that, even us grandkids have to suffer. Well, I have no trouble believing in that terrifying image they paint of him. I don't have many memories of meeting him over the years, but I do remember his face was full of a menacing thundercloud, always making people around him shrink away with a sharp look. I remember the room's atmosphere got tense whenever he was around, and you couldn't even breathe. What my dad said right now about me being the guest of honor now carries a little more room for me. 6 years ago, I was in grade school. I'm a high schooler now. There's no getting away from it. If I don't show him respect, things will probably get serious. Scary. He does look frightening, but he's not completely terrifying. He's definitely never unfair. He's just not a pretty talker is all.
But George, you've been the family darling since forever because of your awesome grades, right? Grandfather treats us completely differently. Like me, I've gotten slapped with a sword. On my ass! My ass! On my maidenly naked ass!
Well, you're the heiress of the head house, Jessica. Grandfather's giving you special attention. You have to realize his strictness shows how much he's expecting of you.
Oh, come on. Seriously, I could just turn the succession over to you, George. It's a bit heavy of a burden for me to carry.
I think I already said it before, but Jessica's the daughter who will inherit the head house. The pressure on her shoulders must be different from us cousins in the branch families. Ooh? Jessica Onechan heavy? If I hold it, will it get lighter?
Huh? Thanks. It's alright. It's not gonna get me pushed. It's not gonna get pushed onto you, Maria. I'll bear that cross until my grave. Don't worry.
While grateful for Maria's innocent consideration, it seemed Jessica would not easily rid herself of the anxiety of the future that remained visible on her face. Guess I'm no different. Any high schooler with exams looming ahead is bound to have an anxiety for the future they can't hide. Maria, come here. You'll be in this room with Mom. Butler, apparently you're with me in this room. Oh? This is a surprise. Bigger than our parents' rooms. Wow. I figured those cousins are probably all gonna gather in one place anyway. So I went ahead and told them to make it a biggish room. Ooh, I like it here best too. Here's better than being together with Mama. Ooh. Alright. You like it here better too, Maria? Alright, this room is George's and mine, but we'll give you special permission to come in. Keep it a secret from your mom, alright? Ooh, secret! Her mother, Auntie Rosa, was right behind her, but Maria still answered, striking the air with her fist clenched tight. After our parents put the luggage in the room, they gathered again in the corridor. So, brats, what are you gonna do? Are you cousins just gonna stay here and chat? It seemed they were heading to the mansion to announce their arrivals. Normally, we would have had to follow them to greet everyone together. But if that had been the case, Dad would have just said, "You guys come too," and that would have been it. He's telling us it's alright if we don't come. So what'll we do?
It's gonna be time for lunch soon anyway. Better let the kids unwind here. Besides, if worst comes to worst, this might be the last chance they get to play outdoors.
Ooh, I'll go too. Maria, you house sit for Mama, okay? You behave yourself and wait here. Ooh. Now that Maria had been told to house sit, we couldn't just leave her behind. George Aniki realized that immediately and gave a clear reply for us. Well, we'll accept the offer and house sit. We have lots of stories to tell each other after a year. That would be best. And Battler has 6 years worth to tell after all. Yeah. I'll take care of the house like a good little boy.
So I'm gonna stay here too. We'll have the rest of the adults and us kids break rank.
That would be for the best. I will report it to Madam.
Then everyone, I will be guiding you to the mansion. Please, this way.
The other kids aside, George is an adult now. Wouldn't it be better if he came with us?
If we make him come, poor George will be the only one left out. Interacting with his cousins is also important. Well then, see ya.
The adults left one after the other. Blech. Like this time, the time he guided us from the harbor, Yoda went ahead with Kumasawa at the rear. As we gathered in the cousin's room assigned to us, George Aniki asked us to excuse him for a second. We rushed over to Kumasawa, who was following behind the disappearing adults and seemed to be asking her something. He soon finished his business and came back. What's up, Aniki? Oh, it's nothing. I just wanted to ask her something. Ooh, ask me too. Ask me too.
What could it be that George Nissan asked Kumasawa that doesn't ask me, huh? I wonder. I don't have a clue.
You misunderstand. I'm not sure what you're misunderstanding, but Aniki was getting pretty tongue-tied. It's like he has something to hide and Jessica has dirt on him. Whatever it is, something only Jessica knows and I don't isn't fun at all. Hey Maria, it's not fair that we're the only ones left out of the loop now, is it? Ah! We want to hear what they're talking about, don't we? Ooh, Battler and me want to know. Battler and me want to know too. Ooh. I fooled around while oohing together with Maria. I'm telling you, it's not a big deal. Liar. You suck at lying, now confess. Maria, you tickle his right side, I get the left. Ooh, me on the right, Battler on the left. Ooh. Wait a second. You too. Stop. George Aniki rolled around on the bed in an effort to get away, and Mario and I played around chasing him. There's something in the back of my mind telling me I'm a high schooler now and not a damn kitten, but in spite of that, I miss this kind of fun. A warm kind of fun.
What George Nissan was asking Kumasawa, see? Well, you know how it is. It's been a year since he last came to the head house. Apparently he's really dying to say hi to any servant who might have joined or quit in the meantime, see?
Ooh? Say hi? I'll say hi too. What the hell? That's not anything to feel guilty about, Aniki. That's not it, is it? Maria, don't be fooled. Aniki is still hiding something. Resume interrogation. Hurrah! Stop it! Seriously! Maria, you too! Stop already!
They're probably busy with cleaning or lunch arrangements. It's alright. We'll greet them properly afterwards. Basically, you wanted Shannon out there to greet you, not that Goda getting in the way, right? Shannon.
Ah, I remember that girl. She's still a servant, huh? How is she?
By the way, Natsume-san, how's your headache been lately? Seemed to be pretty serious for a time.
I've been much better lately. Thank you for your concern. Oh, that's not her voice. I've been much better lately. Thank you for your concern. Oh, right here. A present for you, Natsume-san. Thank you once again. I am always receiving gifts from you. Is this black tea? It's an herb with peppermint and lemon balm. It's a blend from a famous store. It's supposed to be good for headaches. I thought it might help. Rosa was always a conscientious woman. Probably because she was the youngest of four and by quite some distance. She managed to grow up without harboring the venomosity of her siblings. Her consideration made Natsu soften her expression for just a moment. But it wasn't enough to undo many years of anxiety that curdled her expression into one of bland indifference. Oh yes, you always are saying you get those headaches. Pull yourself together. Jessica will have her exams this year, won't she? Isn't that a turning point in her life? How can she count on her mother like that? Besides, Natsu, you're 3 years younger than me. Can't you pull yourself together? I apologize. I was born with this discomfort. Ava sometimes fails to choose her words carefully, but even though she hid it with a smile, her comments aimed at Natsu contained shards of obvious malice. Of course, that didn't escape Natsu. She frantically contained her urge to grimace and pretended to ignore Ava. Our Battler will have his exams this year too, right? Rudolph, shouldn't you be more concerned? For the sake of your own son, get serious to the point of getting headaches like Natsume-san.
If I say anything, he automatically goes against it. So what should I say? Maybe the opposite? It's alright for him to mess around? Probably the only thing he's obediently listened to. In your family, Hideyoshi Nissan, didn't George do really well on his exams? Please teach me the secret to controlling children. Well, it's probably because I convinced him why he should study. Study isn't worth anything on its own. That's right, the real point of studying is to train yourself in the art of researching what you don't know. If you can't do that, you can't be useful to society. I'm not talking about math or writing. You need to learn how to learn.
That is splendid. It would be nice if our Jessica could understand that, though. I don't mean this too seriously, but as it is, as an heiress of the Ushimiya family, she's... Do you really have to force her into becoming the successor? Women have to find their own happiness. Parents shouldn't be deciding that for their children, right?
Hold your horses, Ava. Each family has its own way of raising their kids. You shouldn't be pushy.
I'm sorry. Natsume-san, don't take it the wrong way. Though the light shining in through the window was quite warm, despite the cloudy weather, There was a dark mood about the room, which probably caused headaches for the others besides Nazi. As if to brush away the mood, Kyrie brightly made a suggestion to all present. Still, this black tea really has a lovely aroma. Let's drink it at once. I believe that in Japan you can't buy something like Leopold's black tea anywhere but Ginza, right? Kyrie, how knowledgeable! It really was worth buying. Kyrie and Rosa stood up from their seats and made as if to prepare the black tea. Natsuhi forestalled them. Thank you both. Let us save that for later. One of our people will soon be coming to bring some tea, so please relax.
Leave it for later, you two. Let them treat us to a welcome drink at the very least.
Rudolph gave a subtle signal with his eyes for them to sit down again. Kyrie and Rosa understood it instantly and obediently returned to their seats. The guests had already been greeted, so it was time for some tea to be prepared for them. That tea was late, and having the guests talk about making some themselves was an embarrassment for the host. Nazi bit her lower lip, frustrated with the ineptitude of the servants who were taking too long to bring the tea. Seeing her face, Ava without hesitation started to giggle. Of course, Shannon had no way of knowing that what was taking place in the parlor, as she came in pushing a dish cart piled with teacups. Nazi gave her a pained look for no apparent reason, and Shannon couldn't help but flinch without knowing what she had done wrong. Excuse me, I shall prepare some tea for you.
Oh, Shannon, it's been a while. You keep getting prettier every time I see you.
Oh, thanks. Leave the chatting for after you've set the table. The tea will get cold. I apologize, madam. She apologized like a small, frightened animal, and, bumping against the serving cart, made a jarring racket as she dropped several teaspoons. Her clumsiness made Nazi's expression even harsher, which made Shannon in turn quail even more. It's all right, Nazi Nason. What does a single greeting matter? We already been made to wait for so long. The tea must be quite cold anyway. It's all right. It's not cold yet, so. Shannon, finish setting the table quickly. I'm sorry, madam. It was obvious that Natsuhi was getting irritated. The ineptitude that delayed the tea, the clumsiness of the servant, everything pointed to the incompetence of Nazi's everyday guidance, making her lose face. As the person in charge in matters of the Ushimiya head house, allowing that clumsiness to be exposed today of all days was surely nothing less than total humiliation.
Lay off, Nazi Nason. Don't you think it's a little harsh to bully Shannon when she's trying her best?
I'm not bullying anyone. What a nice smell. May I ask the brand of the tea? I'm sorry. I'll find out for you later. Kyrie tried to be nice to her, and wanted to cut through the tense mood. However, instead, Shannon had shown a disgraceful display, darkening Nazi's face and the room's mood. By this point, Ava's giggles were loud enough to be heard by everyone in the room. What's this? Shannon, don't you even know what you're pouring us? Come now, you mustn't serve something so suspicious to guess. We'll need a silver spoon at the very least before we can drink this. I'm sorry. I'll get one immediately. Shannon, do you know what a silver spoon is used for? Oh, why they have to be silver? Do you know why? No? Ava's eyes played over Shannon, who was setting the table as a catty smile floated to her face. Taken on its own, the expression on Ava's face may have been charming in an impish sort of way. However, the words being spun from her lips held within them a keenness of a razor. Shannon tried with all her might to avoid Ava's gaze, which continued to focus on her. Grasping Shannon was hard-pressed for an answer, Rosa promptly gave some timely help. They say silver dims if it's touched by poison. You've learned something, right, Shannon? The tea was being treated as undrinkable unless it could first be tested for poison. In Natsu's eyes, this was an insult to both the tea and herself for serving it. Rudolph, laughing flippantly, patted Ava on the shoulder. You don't need any silver cutlery. With just one lick of your poisonous tongue, even a silver plate would go pitch black. I get to hear that poison tongue every day, so I must be poison-proof by now. Ava, I don't mind you doing it to me, but you gotta tone it down a smidgen for the poor souls without any resistance. My, how cruel. I only gave Shannon a bit of information about tea, didn't I? Everyone followed the lead, set by Hideyoshi's horse laugh, and smiled, though sourly. There remained a single exception to this in Natsu, but even so, for the time being, the conversation inside the parlor could now be mistaken for a lively and friendly chat. As Shannon finally finished setting the tea table and made to leave, Kyrie apologized to her in a low voice for not being able to help. Shannon left with a light bow and made a hasty retreat. Shannon cast her eyes downwards, pushing the cart down the corridor. The pitiful air about her made it obvious she had borne the brunt of some bullying. Don't be sad. You didn't do anything wrong, Mason. You were watching? That's my duty. Madam and Ava-sama can go to hell. But even worse coward is that guy. Cannon glared hatefully in the opposite direction of the parlor. The preparations for the tea had been delayed by a little bit of trouble in the kitchen. That trouble had not been Shannon's fault. The truth of it had been Goda's mistake. In the first place, there was no way that a show-off like Goda would ever hand over a flamboyant job like carting tea to the guests. So he needed to make the tea all over again, which had made him late. Realizing he wouldn't be earning any brownie points, he pushed the task of setting the table onto Shannon, who happened to be passing by. One could truthfully call it being shrewd, and one could unquestionably call it cowardice. It's all right, Cannon. Thank you. I don't really mind. Cannon's silence vividly showed that Shannon's words weren't coming from her heart. Thank you. Even if you're the only one who understands, I feel a bit better, I think. You bottle things up too much, Nissan. You should be less hard on yourself for once. Yeah, thanks. Suddenly, they both felt someone's presence behind and whirled. An elderly man stood there. It was Genji, the head servant. What are you doing here? Shannon, hurry back to the kitchen. Yes, if you'll excuse me. Shannon humbly obeyed and promptly made to push the cart and leave. However, Cannon appealed to Genji in silence, bearing something in his eyes that he could not express in words. What is it? Did something happen? Shannon didn't do anything wrong. But those... Stop it, Cannon. If you'll excuse me, I'll return to work immediately. Cannon-kun, you too. Go back to your post. Please. If you say so, Mason. If there is nothing, then go. Yes, if you'll excuse me. From the shadows in the hallway, an old woman wearing an apron watched over them. It was Kumasawa. How heartrending. Shannon-san. Cannon-san. There is no reason for those two to be picked on, but it cannot be denied that they are disliked by Goda. Before Goda was taken into the Ushimi head house, I hear he worked for a fabulous hotel somewhere. I do think the manner of work that he learned there was quite something. It's just that Goda is the newest servant here. He must have a lot of pride accumulated from his previous posts, because Shannon-san and Cannon-kun are seniors here at the mansion, and yet are inexperienced and have gone through much less in life than he has. He picks on them at every chance he gets. Also, although it's terrible, they are hated by Madame Nazi too. Of course, in terms of experience, Madame has been in the family much longer. However, I must feel some sympathy for Madame as well in this case. The master truly is a cruel person. Why could he not have realized his trifling whim would pass such an inferiority complex onto Madame? Naturally, deep inside, even Madame fully acknowledges there's no reason to treat those two harshly. However, the heart has a reason that reason knows not. How heartrending. I can't do anything but watch over them from the shadows. Alright. That's another chapter there. Next time we will be reading Guest House. So thank you all for joining me, and I will see you next time.